Hi, I'm Susan Richter. I'm Head of Content here at Whiteoaks International, and today I've got John Broy with me, our Client Services Director, and Julian Fisher, the CEO of Jisp. So to kick us off, Julian, tell us a little bit about Jisp.
So Jisp is an app that was launched over 4 years ago. It's a shopping and lifestyle app designed to help consumers find the products and information in stores, and for stores to connect their products and services with consumers through an app which brings information, videos, variations, prices directly to the consumer's mobile phone, literally from tapping on a price sticker.
And there's a lot been said in the media at the moment about the death of the high street. In fact, there has been for quite some time, but that's not how Jisp sees things.
No, the death of the high street has been overplayed. There's plenty of life in the high street.
I think we've noticed from working with you as well, it's been very clear that you have a passion both not just for your product, but for the high street and what it should be delivering. And I think that's come across in how you've communicated that to the end audience being the retail media.
It's all about coming together as people. It's about community. It's about going out and experiencing the products and the services that we all want and love. So I am passionate about it, and thankfully so are my team.
With that in mind, when you began talking to Whiteoaks about a potential engagement, what were your objectives? What did you want to achieve?
For a company like us, any company starting up, the difficulty is being noticed, being seen, having a voice. So we really needed a voice in the market. We needed to have things that we cared about mentioned and challenged. So the opportunity to talk to journalists, to have articles written about us, to have pieces which gave us a voice and some authority was something that we were looking for, and definitely is something that we've received.
I think what's been clear for you guys as well, your passion comes across when the media meet you. So as a relatively new brand on the market, the authority you give and the fact that you're happy to challenge the kind of status quo on how they should see the retail high street and how that looks as a wider landscape nationally has enabled us to work with you to develop that voice.
The technology that we've developed is all about bringing people together. It is literally the process of having someone who has a need or an interest in something, being able to look at the product and actually discuss it with the shopkeeper, with an assistant. And our technology has been designed to actually do that, to actually bring people together. And during the time since we created the idea 4 years ago, when technology was definitely being seen to drive people apart, so the social websites, and then you started in the last couple of years to see this idea that actually really we want to be coming back together again. We want to be talking face to face, not sitting down on a sofa and me texting you, actually talking to you. So our technology was always meant to bring people together, but to deliver information. Because at the end of the day, when I go shopping, what I'm doing is I'm gathering information, whether it's the written word or someone explaining something to me, or it's actually seeing the product right in front of me and having a description of that product and having other people's opinions, which is obviously something that people are very keen on. And it's a great thing for a company of our size, which has been largely unknown. You get to a point where not only do people come to find us, but when they meet us, it's the first thing they say is, "Oh, I've never heard of Jisp." These days, they'll at least say, "Yes, I've heard about you. I seem to recall someone talking about you," which is lovely.
And in building this distinctive voice in the market and getting your messaging out there and boosting awareness, how did you work with the Whiteoaks team to get that achieved?
So from the weekly meetings, we would assess the successes of what we've achieved in the week previous and weeks before. And then the majority of what we would do is look at what articles, what opportunities, what topics we would go through in the weeks ahead. As a company being young and relatively inexperienced at putting our message across, we found actually that over time our message got stronger. We got more comfortable in what we were doing. We were taking advice. And yes, there were times when I was definitely wanting to put a message across very strongly, and so therefore there would be some changes to text, etc., etc. But there was never any issue. There was never any problem. It was always well received. There was feedback coming to us about the articles, and again, because we met every week in a conference call, it focused our attention on what we needed to achieve every single week to get into a practice, a routine, to think about what we needed to achieve in marketing.
I think what has been a really refreshing approach of way of working together is that ability that you like to be different, you like to challenge the status quo. It's enabled us to find new stories out there that maybe typically we wouldn't have gone for, because as a new company, we can be brave and challenging, and it's really enabled us to get on those radio shows or those television appearances that you've done as well, that really enable you to kind of promote what you feel so strongly about in retail while making it relatable to what Jisp offers, which is really important.
By being in the press and being relevant, we're getting more propositions, we're getting more companies visiting our website. So we have a service which identifies the companies that are coming and visiting our website. So we're cross-correlating the work that we do in marketing across PR and advertising to see whether this is generating interest in the company, and the numbers are staggering. In fact, they've come from all over the world. So we are turning that opportunity, because you mustn't forget in PR, and we've had to remind ourselves to do this, is that you don't just want to be exposed in articles and yes, on radio, TV, but you want to generate some business. You want to turn that into something which actually brings you revenue. Yeah. So our objective has been to then look at where those articles can be used by us to further our own objectives. So we send the articles deliberately to clients and say, this is where we are, this is what we've done. So they're able to read and see the authority that comes behind the article, so which is a very positive thing, something that we've only been doing the last few months, but we've been able to identify that it's working.
And having access to your own kind of dedicated copywriter on the team, do you think that's helped with the content strategy and developing those assets that can be used in other channels, like you mentioned, with your sales team and sending to clients?
Sure. It's a great thing that you have someone who is able to understand your business and get closer to understanding it and being able to write about it. Our business is complex. What we do is complicated. I always say it's like my car. I very rarely open the bonnet, but because it's very complex. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mechanic, so it's quite complicated. So I shut the bonnet and I'm just happy to drive the car. What we do is very complicated under the bonnet, but what we are presenting is hopefully intuitive and simple to use. So we've got to get that message across, and we're getting better at it. You can become in love with what you do and sort of forget what it is that actually other people are seeing in the services that you're providing. So for us, again, it's a journey. So having someone who has been working with, having a team that is working with us for the period of time that we've had, means that we've all become much more familiar, much better at being able to put our message across.
So Jisp as a business is kind of very important within the local community, and with that in mind, we've also been mindful to try and engage with local press, both print and broadcast media. How important has that been to you as a brand?
Being recognised within our own community is important. We've even had a minister, the Minister of Education, actually came over to visit us and see the work that we're doing. So having an opportunity to show to the community that we are an employer, we employ all local people in our company, is important. And we're on the high street. You know, we are a technology company producing technology for the high street, and our offices are above some stores.
And looking back at the last couple of months, are there any sort of highlights that you'd like to chat about in terms of the campaign or coverage that you've achieved?
Well, there's been a lot of coverage. There's a lot of articles. I'm very proud to say to people, especially my investors or prospective investors, I just say to them, use my name and Jisp and do a search and you'll find the articles. So that's nice to be able to say that to people and to give them a sense of what it is that we're doing, because they can obviously read the articles. We send them clips, we send them the videos. There's a lot of work and a lot of thought that goes into this, and it's been a pleasure working with Whiteoaks. So I'm very pleased that we found you, or you found us. I can't remember which way it went, but very pleased that we got together. Yeah.
And with that in mind as well, but I think you've always had it at the front of your mind that while you're answering an issue, a broader economic issue, that you always bring it back to how Jisp can help within that kind of environment without pushing it too hard, but still coming back to that message of, why the high street isn't dead, for example, or, what retailers should be thinking about. So kind of making sure that strong message still gets under kind of the questions that you're answering.
Everyone expects you to be biased towards the service or solution or product that you have, but if you can actually put across a coherent argument, then people are going to be more interested in learning more about you.
So the retail technology space is quite a crowded area. So how at Whiteoaks have we helped Jisp stand out from the competition?
Well, that's an easy one to answer, actually. When you're a small company with a name that most people don't recognise, when you start seeing your name against large, well-known household brands, and this comes up again and again and again, when you're in a crowded market and the two things that are bubbling up on the surface are the household name brands and us, that is what helps, is actually being mentioned in the same breath. So our solutions are great to hear about, but what we want people to remember is our name. And so it's important that the name is associated against the solutions, but equally at the same time, those wonderful large household known brands that are out there that we're all trying to get close to, even to surpass.
Thank you for taking the time to share your views on the high street and Jisp and your work with Whiteoaks. It's been a pleasure.